2 weeks ago, whilst in Dubai, I decided to complete my first ARX training session. Now, for those of you that don't know what ARX training is, as you can see on screen, it's an absolutely brutal form of training, but for the actual description of it, I won't refer back to their website. ARX is resistance exercise technology that uses computer-controlled motorized resistance in place of weights or other more traditional forms of resistance. This adaptive resistance provides safe, controlled, and quantifiable resistance that is of higher quality than is currently possible with weights or other gravity-based systems found in the world today. Now, there are a few things that made me want to try out this form of training. Firstly, the cost of this product is absolutely insane. You have to purchase 2 of the devices in order to actually be able to perform all movements necessary to complete a workout. Each unit is $43,000. Well, the first unit is $43,000 and the second unit is $46,000. So that cost of product made me immediately fascinated in how good the product was and the piece of equipment was, and therefore I was dying to try it out. I also saw it being reviewed recently by the guy that runs Garage Gym Reviews at a fitness expo, and he was raving about the product and was desperate to purchase one himself as well, although he referenced the price being something which is just ludicrous, quite frankly, but still very interesting. And also some of the claims they make on their website are pretty intriguing. If you head over to their website, arxfit.com, and continue scrolling down, you can see they've made some pretty insane claims. So ARX is more effective and efficient than weights, facilitating 2.5x more fat loss, twice as much muscle gain as opposed to conventional lifting, 3.5x greater cardiovascular fitness, 90% greater strength gains, and 72% more time efficient form of training. They reference studies also to back their claims they've made. You can think of it, make your own opinion. You can formulate your own opinion based on the information they presented you with. But of course, I'll very much be sticking with conventional training, given that, again, the access to these pieces of equipment is very limited in Europe and the UK, specifically in London. I can't find any facility that has access to this training equipment right now. And also, of course, the cost of product, as I said, in total is going to be about $90,000. So yeah, these claims, again, they are substantiated by evidence they've referenced in research papers or research analysis they've conducted, but make of that what you will. And of course, if you want to dive into that in more detail and unpack that and investigate that yourself, you can go to their website and check out their studies they reference to back and substantiate these claims. Okay, so before I got underway with the actual training session itself, I kick-started with some mobility work, some shoulder mobility work, lower back mobility, hip mobility, just get nice and loose and open prior to the training session. I was pretty apprehensive at this moment in time. I was unaware of how difficult the session would be. I knew it would take approximately 15 minutes, but I had no idea of the intensity or how hard I'd be pushing with regards to my output in the session itself. So I was just kind of taking it slow for my mobility, making sure everything was feeling nice and good prior to the session. I was aware very much so that my HRV was in a very good position. I believe it was 121 MS that day. My readiness score was very high. I was feeling good. I consumed enough food the day prior. Actually, my last meal approximately 4 to 5 hours prior to bed. So I was very well rested and feeling ready to rock and roll. Throughout my training in Dubai, or whilst I was there for about 10 days, I was training twice per day, but my HRV was in a very, very good position. I'd regulated my recovery really nicely. So I was feeling really good. You guys can see the mobility I'm doing on screen here, just a quick 5-minute warm-up to get ready. And again, get my heart rate a little bit more elevated prior to the training session, which I think I hit at about 9 a.m. as well. So I'd hydrated nicely prior to the session, got my work done, and was ready to really rock and roll and crack on with it and get it done. The first movement I performed and tested in the session was a leg press. Now, the coach here is demonstrating or informing me of the fact that my output should peak in my first 3 to 4 reps. I'll be performing 8 reps per set. It should peak in its first 3 to 4 reps and then start to descend as I start to fatigue. So in total, each set would take approximately 2 minutes 30. I think it's 2 minutes 36 seconds or something like this. You can see here me fitting the machine to fit my range of motion that I could be performing or how my body best fit in the machine. Countdown of 5 and I went straight into it. So immediately I'm testing my concentric output here, and therefore my force in this instance should be lesser than that of my eccentric output. So I'm now testing my eccentric output. The pads are being pushed. I'm pushing against the pads. I'm opposing the force being pushed onto me here. And this is where I max in terms of my output. So I maxed, I believe, I'll pull up my numbers on screen as well, and we can dive into that. But I believe it was near 650 kilos on my eccentric, and my concentric, of course, was weaker. So, of course, for all individuals, your eccentric load, your ability to load eccentrically is much greater than that of your concentric force you can output or push. This was very, very tough. Each rep, I think, in terms of the concentric and eccentric, was 3 seconds long each, and you have a 4-second rest period in between reps. 2-second rest period between reps. It was absolutely brutal. My heart rate was elevated to, I believe, 150 BPM throughout the entire set. And of course, it's testing your output and your ability to push. So you really are going to a max here. And of course, that's dependent on how hard you want to push in each session. But I was pushing to my max. I wanted to test my numbers and see how I was performing on that given day. It was absolutely brutal. Really, really tough, particularly given that, again, the length of most sets you hit in the gym is between 30 to 60 seconds, around that range, depending on your rep range, of course, and rep scheme programs. But in this instance, it's a 2-minute 30 set. It's brutal. Your heart rate is racing, particularly on a leg press. It's beating through your chest. You're trying to manage your fatigue, and you're still trying to, of course, force your output to be elevated throughout, because again, you're competing against yourself here. You can see the charts on the numbers on the chart here in terms of my max output for my eccentric and concentric. So yeah, it really was absolutely brutal. Really fun though, of course, but yeah, still absolutely brutal on the leg press. And again, that was the movement I kick-started the session with, which I shouldn't have done. So I shouldn't have done. Oh, I love that. Oh, God. Okay, so this is my last rep. You can see I'm done at this stage. I'm checking my heart rate immediately. I'm pretty fatigued and I'm kind of blown away by how difficult that set was. You can see she's now demonstrating the fact that my output maxed in my second rep actually. And you can see the force exerted there was 1,000, how many pounds was that? Let me pull it up. Yeah, I'll pull it up on screen for you guys to see, and I'll dive back into that. But I believe it was about 650 kilos, so it's pretty high. We're now moving forward onto my chest press, which I wasn't that happy with in terms of the setup of the movement, given that you can see here, I'm effectively pushing on like a decline press, really. I wish the pad had been elevated a little bit more neutral, into position it was 90 degrees. That would have helped me stabilize my shoulders a little bit more and keep my scapula retracted and my shoulders down throughout, and therefore exert it a little bit better, but nonetheless, it is what it is. Yeah, definitely really interesting movement. Again, fixed range of motion in this instance, so no convergence at all. It's almost like you're replicating a bench press as such, as opposed to like a dumbbell press or a cable press, for example. I believe my max output here in terms of my eccentrics was about 140 kg and my concentrics was about 110 kg. But again, I'll pull up the numbers. For those of you guys that are looking at the numbers on screen, the E represents pounds. I don't know why they don't just have pounds on there. It's really stupid, to be frank. But it does represent pounds. So again, you can see my max eccentric and concentric for all lifts here, and I'll pull it up and show you guys. You guys can check that out also. I'd be really fascinated to know what you guys would be able to perform in terms of your outputs for your eccentrics and concentrics if you were to go and do an ARX session. If you do, drop it in the comment section down below. I'd be really fascinated to see, and we can kind of build like a competitive kind of chart as such for individuals that watch this video and then go and actually try the session itself. But yeah, I did enjoy the press for sure. It was just very difficult. And again, I had to be very conscious of keeping my shoulders down and retracted, of course, throughout. Again, with decline press, of course, that being a little bit more difficult than a flat press to do as such, or you have to be more conscious of that. And it's definitely something which I needed to be told as a cue a little bit more frequently, just to make sure it really clicked, and I was really conscious of that, and therefore could exert a huge amount of force and extend my elbow nicely. That's nuts. That's actually fucking brutal. Like, I've actually never felt like that for training. That's nuts. Okay, so now we're moving on to the second machine here. You guys can see the options and movements we have, or choice of exercise we have for that second machine. Again, in order to perform every movement possible, you'd have to buy both machines, and that's going to be about $90,000. In this instance, I chose to perform a neutral grip lat pull down. I did have the option of performing another press, but of course, my delts were fairly fatigued from my pressing movement already. So I went for a neutral grip lat pull down here with the mag grip. Just wanted to see what it was like. And of course, in order to ensure that I max myself on my outputs with my eccentrics and concentrics, I had to force myself down with a seatbelt. This is a 15-second countdown. I was very apprehensive by this point because my heart rate was already about 150 BPM. So the countdown wasn't helping that at all, and the adrenaline rush was pretty high for sure. But I've only trained in total here for 5 minutes. My leg press took 2 minutes 30. My chest press took 2 minutes 30. I'm now performing another 2 minute 30 long set. So my total session itself, really, in terms of my exertion, was only 7 minutes, which is just nuts to think about. 7 minutes 30, given how much fatigue I accumulated from this, how battered I felt from the session. I actually really enjoyed the neutral grip lat pull down. I thought it was really interesting to see the difference between my strength and my eccentrics, which is here where I'm forcing or trying to pull against the mag grip. and of course my concentric where I'm actually pulling the cable down, there's a massive difference, and you guys can see that from the data pulled up on screen again. And again, the E represents pounds, so you guys can see that. Really enjoyed this movement, and of course it allowed my delts to recover a little bit more, my chest to recover a little bit more, my triceps as well, having hit such a heavy press earlier in the movement prior. So yeah, it was a good movement for sure. Okay, so just finished the set, heart rate's racing, I'm absolutely battered. I'm sweating like a pig as well. You guys can see my max outputs here. So I actually maxed my output, surprisingly, on my 5th rep for my eccentric, which is 318 pounds. That's about 140 kg that I was resisting there for the eccentric, which is really interesting. But yeah, you guys can see my heart rate here again on screen. So it went up to 139 BPM there, 5 seconds or so after my rest period. Yeah, definitely pretty high at that point for sure.
1,200 pounds on the max leg press.
Yeah.
So my max on my press was, that's 100, just over 140 kg. And then here, my max there, that's 140 kg.
Another really cool thing about this center, which is formation in Dubai Marina, which I'd highly recommend to any of you that are either flying out there to visit or live there, was that they had infrared saunas and also ice plunges afterwards post-session for you to recover with, which is a really cool feature and component of the actual facility, which is pretty rare that you have access to things like that in the UK, or at least a cold plunge at least, but of course saunas being more common, we have them every single gym here, but yeah, cold plunges are very limited here. But anyhow, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you have any questions with regards to how to leverage ARX training or my thoughts and opinions on it and my experience, let me know in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this one, please ensure you leave it a thumbs up and of course subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.